2020 has a ton to look forward to in the video gaming world. Hi folks, this is Falcon, and today on Game Race, the top 15 new games of the first half of 2020. Quick disclaimer, just so you understand, these are games from the first half of 2020 which are releasing from January to the end of June 2020. We got a lot to look forward to. Obviously, we hope all of these games turn out really well. Let's get into it. Starting off at number 15 is Nioh 2. Out of all of the Souls-like games, Nioh is perhaps one of the better ones. And they're back with a game that is actually a prequel to the original. And instead of having a set protagonist, you'll be making your own character this time around, which is, for me, a mix of both exciting and maybe a little disappointing. I like having a fully defined main character, but I also like making characters. So we'll see how that's handled. I don't think it's going to be a hindrance to the game. The first is amazing, and building on that core is going to be, at least in my opinion, probably pretty great. Nioh 2 is coming to PlayStation 4 March 13th. At number 14 is Dreams, the game creation system that Sony is putting out on the PlayStation 4, although I have to imagine it will also be part of the PlayStation 5 strategy on account. This is really kind of an amazing thing. From just an art perspective, there's a pretty amazing amount of stuff that's possible in this. You can use the Move controllers to sculpt, you make game logic. I've seen so many different types of games made in the prototype by users who are already using it. There's, for instance, a couple of pretty amazing FPS demos. Honestly, I think that we're going to see a lot of really amazing stuff out of this thing, and I'm certainly going to get a hold of it when it comes out. Speaking of the release date, Dreams comes out on the PlayStation 4 Valentine's Day, February 14th. And at 13 is Animal Crossing New Horizons. So I'm really excited for a new Animal Crossing game, and I think there are people who are a lot more excited than myself even. Animal Crossing is kind of a beloved life sim franchise that has a charm to it you're not going to find in a lot of other games. However, I am really concerned about one thing with this game, and it's called Nook Miles, the new in-game currency. Up until this point, the Nintendo Switch has not really been much a haven for microtransactions. That little thing right there has me a bit worried. Do I think that's going to make the game itself bad? Probably not. As far as stuff that's come to this game that is new, the crafting system from Pocket Camp is present and probably will make the game more interesting. In truth, I'm excited, but I'm also like, Nook Miles, man. Animal Crossing New Horizons is coming to Nintendo Switch on March 20th. And number 12 is Persona 5 Royal, which if you liked Persona 5, you probably will also like Persona 5 Royal on account it's a re-release with more content. They've added a new Phantom Thief, meaning a new playable character, and more importantly, it adds an entire new semester of gameplay, which for anybody who is a fan of Persona 5 or just Persona in general is great. I mean, that's something that we would all want, I would think. Persona 5's battle system is just a joy to use, so for me, having the game again, with a ton more features like the ability to build your own kind of little personal palace place, I think it seems like a lot of fun to go through this game again. I love Persona 5. Persona 5 Royal is coming March 31st to the PlayStation 4, and unfortunately nothing else. That's the one gripe I have. And number 11 is Marvel's Avengers, a game that, if you've watched footage of, actually looks like it could turn out pretty well, although it could also be a little samey with a lot of other games. I think in some cases it's taken a lot of cues from Spider-Man PS4, which is a good thing, to be clear. And its fight system looks genuinely enjoyable. Gameplay gives you a lot of different choices as you're fighting, but there's also a lot of QTE events I've noticed. For me, this is one of those games that looks really cool and potentially amazing, but I'm gonna have to play it first on account some of the things remind me of other things that haven't been amazing. If it does actually kind of build on the template that Spider-Man PS4 has, that it does feel like it tries to do in a lot of areas, specifically combat. What I've watched of combat looks fun and kinetic, and like when you're Natasha Romanoff / Black Widow, for instance, you can switch between guns, clubs. She's got a lot of different actual moves. It looks enjoyable. I really want to play it first, though. I have a worry that the QTE to actual gameplay ratio isn't great, particularly for what is apparently an action game, but we'll see. Regardless, I am actually still excited for the game, which is saying a lot, to be frank. The combat actually does look really enjoyable to me, and playing as these characters in a game that gives you fun, enjoyable combat seems like it might not be a bad idea. Marvel's Avengers is hitting PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Stadia on May 15th. At number 10 is Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which is an open-world RPG retelling of the Dragon Ball Z story. I am super excited for this game. In all honesty, the more I read about it, the more I think that it's going to be great. Obviously, the Bandai Namco published Dragon Ball games have really nailed the look of the game, so that's kind of not up in the air for me. What I've been most interested in is learning about the various RPG aspects of the game. And we've learned a fair amount about the skill tree recently, and it's pretty detailed. We also learned this is a pretty long game. It's a 35-40 hour game to beat, 80 to 100 to 100% it. And frankly, I'm stoked. Like, this is kind of almost everybody's fantasy Dragon Ball Z game. If you would have told me this was going to exist at some point in the 1990s, I would have been like, how is that even possible? Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is coming to PS4 and Xbox One January 17th. At number 9 is Wasteland 3. If you can recall, Wasteland, the original game, subtitled Adventure in Post-Nuclear America, was published back in 1987. It served as inspiration for Fallout. In some ways, Fallout was considered to be a spiritual successor, way back before it was standard to be talking about spiritual successors. And a sequel to it, Wasteland 2, came out back in 2014. Wasteland 3 has been crowdfunded. It's very much a Fallout-looking game to me. And by Fallout, I mean top-down isometric, however done with 3D and very pretty looking. If you love the first two Fallout games, this is basically what those sprung forth from. And, well, it's not one-to-one, it's not canon as part of the Fallout franchise or anything like that. It's definitely in the same wheelhouse. Wasteland 3 is coming to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Windows, and it's coming on May 19th. At number 8 is One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows, which is a 3D arena fighting game, which, considering what One Punch Man is, that's pretty cool. The fighting takes place with two teams of 3. It's kind of interesting because One Punch Man, if you know anything about it, the main character can't be defeated except for by himself. Otherwise, he's invincible. So if you select him as part of your team, he's actually quite late to the fight, which means the team will be smaller and at a disadvantage until he shows up, when they will be at an advantage. Now, if both teams have one, it's obviously an even fight. Honestly, it's kind of a cool asynchronous way of making the game interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows, is coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One February 28th. At number 7 is Ori and the Will of the Wisps, a continuation, obviously, of Ori and the Blind Forest, a phenomenal platforming game. I realize this isn't something to be particularly excited about, but I am particularly excited about it. They've added auto-saving to this game, and I'm just like, yes, thank you. They've also implemented some ideas from other games like Hollow Knight, dropping the upgrade system for a shard system that, for all intents and purposes, is the charm system from Hollow Knight. This game looks like it's going to be scaled up. The adventure is centered around the world beyond the forest, which implies it's bigger. I'm excited for this. I'm always excited for Metroidvanias that are vaguely competent looking, but we already know that the first was amazing, so I'm there pretty much automatically. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is coming to Xbox One and Windows on March 11th. At number 6 is the Final Fantasy VII Remake. This is the big one, folks. For JRPG nerds the world across, this is an action RPG that aims to retell the story with what seems like more detail to me. There are a couple of different battle systems in place. Both sound fairly interesting to me. One is more of a straightforward action battle system. One kind of slows it down to create slightly more of a turn-based experience. They're basically modes you can switch between. I didn't get my hands on the demo that leaked. I'm more interested in playing it though before I say which is better or if either of them work. Honestly, I'm just super excited for this, and when it comes out, expect me to talk about it forever. Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming exclusive to the PlayStation 4 for a year on March 3rd. At number 5 is Doom Eternal, what is frankly an amazing reboot to the Doom franchise in Doom 2016, is obviously deserving of a sequel. It's getting it this year. We're stoked. It's not that far away. It seems like they're taking a similar approach to the original Doom and Doom 2 in that they're creating the same game but much bigger. It is canonically set sometime after the 2016 reboot. Honestly, there's 3 words that I have to say that totally sum up my opinion on this game. Grappling, hook, shotgun. Frankly, it's id Software's to screw up at this point. I'm sure this is going to be great. It's coming to PC, PS4, Stadia, and Xbox One on March 20th. At number 4 is Half-Life Alyx. This is a game I don't think anyone expected at any point. It's not Half-Life 3, but it is another full-fledged Half-Life first-person shooter, and perhaps the most serious first-person shooter that we've seen on VR yet. It's for that reason I'm actually pretty excited to see where this goes. In a lot of respects, if they actually nail the FPS on VR in the scale of a full-blown game like Half-Life Alyx, that's, I think, kind of where VR becomes a real thing. And also, of course, it is a prequel to Half-Life 2, so we learn what exactly was going on with Alyx prior to that. And while that's definitely not the vital Half-Life 3 continuation of the story we've all been craving, it is something I am interested in and want to know about. So yeah, I'm not like mad that it's not Half-Life 3, to be honest. Half-Life Alyx is coming to VR headsets in March. We don't have an exact date, but March. And number 3 is Resident Evil 3's remake, which, I mean, let's be honest, we're all really excited for, just like we were the 2 remake. My guess is that they've been working on this in a smaller capacity parallel to the 2 remake because it's using a lot of 2's technology. It adopts the same gameplay mechanics as the 2 remake, and it basically does exactly the same thing that Resident Evil 3 did. It takes place some before and some after Resident Evil 2. I don't know a lot to say other than I'm so ready to play this game. Resident Evil 3 is great. In fact, my favorite Resident Evils are the first 3. And these remakes, updating, streamlining, and modernizing elements in a tasteful and really well thought out way, it's a no-brainer. Of course I'm there. Resident Evil 3's remake will be hitting on PlayStation 4, Windows, and Xbox One April 3rd. Number 2 is, of course, Cyberpunk 2077. This game is going to be one of the biggest open world RPGs of the year and possibly one of the bigger FPS games of the year as well. Let's be serious about this. It looks gorgeous. We've seen so much about this game looking just totally amazing. And Jake has even had the opportunity to play it some. He's given some positive impressions of it too. To say I'm hyped about this game is maybe a bit of an understatement. It's a game I've wanted since they alluded to it in The Witcher 3. Oh, and they better deliver on that crossover. Just gonna say that. It's CD Projekt Red. I'm not worried about the game being good. I do have other small worries about it regarding the story and how it's handled, considering a big company is making a Cyberpunk game, and Cyberpunk is basically about how big companies are bad. But we'll see. If anybody is going to buck norms, it's gonna be CD Projekt Red, and I'm excited. Cyberpunk 2077 is hitting Windows, PlayStation 4, Stadia, and Xbox One on April 16th. And finally, at number 1, The Last of Us Part 2. This is a really big half year for gaming. Going through this list has got me really stoked. Last of Us was just a triumph in video game storytelling and gameplay. It's just such a cool game. It pulled so many ideas together into just this one cohesive, beautiful, sad, emotional, scary experience. The fact they're making a second one continuing this story is 100% exactly what I've wanted since I was done with this game. I'm just super excited to see where the world is at this point, where the characters are, how they're handling the apocalypse. It's just so exciting to be dunked back into the Last of Us world. And it's only a few months before we do that. The Last of Us Part 2 is hitting on PlayStation 4 May 29th. Are you as excited for this half of the year as I am? There's so many big names, big games coming out. Leave us a comment. Let us know what your most anticipated game is, what you're thinking about. And if you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe and don't forget to click the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon a Hero. And we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.